Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Christy Taylor, certified professional career coach and founder of Work Solutions LLC. And I'm here today on episode 3 of the Career Coach RX podcast. And today we're going to be discussing tips for college student success with Dr. Christina. With Dr. Christina Vasquez. Dr. Vasquez is the Director of Collegiate Science and Technology Entry Programs at SUNY Oswego. Yes. Dr. Vasquez, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Dr. Vasquez, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just a little technical trouble. So it happens. Okay. We're here live with Dr. Christina Vasquez, Director of the Collegiate Science and Technology Entry Program at SUNY Oswego University. She's a higher education leader with over 15 years of experience in college student support. She currently works to support a program with over 100 diverse students through programming, advising, and operational coordination. And today we're going to be discussing success tips for college students. And so, Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Vasquez, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your passion for working with student success.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm happy to spread the word of college success. I've actually been working in higher ed professionally for 15 plus years, but I started my career way back when I was an undergraduate student. I just didn't even know it, working in residence life. So I have a love for passion. I am a first generation college student, and I love education. Without education, I feel like there's so many opportunities missed. It is, as far as I'm concerned, the great equalizer. It is something that everybody needs to access and have opportunity for, because it is one of the few things that we all can access and have and be able to use in the future, no matter what happens. And so I know my mom and dad didn't attend college, and so there was never a question of whether I would attend college or not. It was just you're going to go. But when I got to college, I was in a world I didn't understand. And I really struggled a lot, more like financially, and financially causes, stress and everything like that. I showed up my first day of school, I remember, and ready to move in, and they told me I owed money, and I nearly took my stuff and left. And without people on campus to talk to me and help me and support me, I would not have made it. So I think that's where this passion I have for higher ed really comes from, is because I know that there were some places where I needed help that I didn't get good help, and I wanted to be able to do that for other people and provide them the help that they need. So now I get an opportunity to work with students every day that I help, some more than others. But basically, my program is a New York State grant funded program. And what we do is we provide access to services for students that are underrepresented in the STEM and professional license fields. And we do advising, we help to pay for life's expenses and things that are outside of tuition, such as paying for graduate school applications or graduate school testing, or helping students to travel home for the Thanksgiving break, or a phone bill. And so there's a lot of things that we can do with our money that is a little bit outside of the norm as far as like scholarships and tuition.
So you mentioned being a first generation college student, and let's talk about that a little bit. So if you're joining us live here today, we're with Dr. Christina Vasquez. She serves as the Director of Collegiate Science and Technology Entry Programs at SUNY Oswego University. And she shared her experience being a first generation college student and how this helped to cultivate her passion for supporting students. And then she also has shared a little bit about her programs. Now, you in the past have worked not only in this current role, but you have served as a dean and multiple other leadership roles in higher education. What do you see as some of the challenges of first year college students?
I think that higher education, we speak a language all our own. We are a world all our own, and there's a level of elitism that goes along with it because there's this misconception that students completely understand everything when they show up on campus. So we throw new terms at them like residence halls and bursars and registrars. And these are terms that they don't understand. And when you're talking to first generation college students who have no point of understanding or support to go back to because mom and dad did not attend college, they feel completely alone and isolated, even though they're on a campus with probably plenty of other people that are experiencing the same thing. So I think it's incredibly, like I mentioned, isolating. It makes people feel alone and alienated. And it also plays into that whole idea of being an imposter. Like, I don't deserve to be here. I shouldn't be here because I don't belong with these people because I'm not one of those people. And it all contributes to the experience.
So I'm going to give you some statistics. We briefly had a conversation about college students and mental health. I have some data here that says in 2022, over 3/4 of college students, 77% experienced moderate to serious psychological distress. 35% of students were diagnosed with anxiety. 27% had depression. Almost 9 in 10 students, 89%, who face academic challenges say that this affects their mental health. So when we're talking about the first year college experience, when we're talking about some of the challenges that students face, let's just focus a moment on that first year experience and students who may be first generation. You shared a little bit about some of the challenges that these students face. And what are some of the things that parents can do to prep their students? So let's focus on that first. And then we'll have a second part to this question where we get some perspective from an administrative leadership standpoint of what can we do as higher education administrators to support students, those who are coming in first generation.
So as a parent, I think that you need to look at your student as an individual because every student is going to be at a different place when they graduate from high school. There's a misconception that students that graduate from high school are completely college ready, and that is not always the case. There are some that will go to college and be successful no matter what you do, and there are some that are not. I think as a parent, you have to assess the situation and really have a serious conversation with your learner about where they are and how serious they are about the situation about going to college. Some students are just not ready. And there's a lot of parental support and even pressure to go to college, and students might not be ready when they get here, and that contributes to a lot of these issues. So I think having a serious conversation, looking at grades, looking at how they did in high school and saying do you think you're ready for this next level? And if they, your student says, no, I don't really know if I'm ready or not, that's okay. Okay, so let's talk about what next steps are. And so that's why I really believe in the community college system. I think community colleges are wonderful, accessible, open places for students who may not be quite ready to go to university to get a chance to figure it out. I find it's a great place to make mistakes. It's a great place to learn. It's a great place to just learn how to be a college student and to be successful. And there is no shame in going to community college. A lot of people think that there's something wrong with attending community college and doing your first years. Absolutely not. so many students that transfer in after they've completed their 2 years at community college are just way in a better spot than students who haven't completed. And transfers tend to do better because they're more emotionally prepared, they're more academically prepared. There's just a lot of things to consider. So I would say we really have to talk to your student and find out where they are. And also, I think a big piece of this too is just finding out, like, mentally, are you ready to take on the pressure and the stress of being a college student? Because this is going to become a full-time job for you. We often tell students, if you're a full-time student taking anywhere from 12 to 15 credit hours or more, you're going to be putting in anywhere from 40 to 48 hours a week plus of work on school. So are you ready for that commitment? Because if you're not ready for that commitment, okay, let's talk about what else we can possibly do to help you get to wherever that next step is.
So, you gave some great advice there, and that is really great for traditional students. But I also kind of see some of the points you made in relation to, let's transition, because I do want to get to the piece where we talk about what we can do as college administrators to better support students, right? So we've talked about the first year experience with students. We've talked about those, students who are first generation college students. Let's spend a moment talking about non-traditional college students, right? Because you're right, not everybody's going to be. I was a non-traditional college student. I worked full time my entire degree experience. I was in the military, active duty, and I went to school online. And this was like at the cusp of very early stages of online learning. And then we also had, classes that you could take on the military base. But for the most part, all the way through my doctorate program, I worked. So I only went to college for 1 year. There's a recent study that just came out that said approximately 18.66 million individuals in the United States will be college students in 2023, even though we've seen a decline in enrollment, right? But 18.66 million is still a lot of students. Around 16 million students are enrolled in degree granting universities and colleges in the United States, and about 9.5 million college students in the United States are female and 7.1 million are males. Now, a lot of those are non-traditional. It says nearly 66.6% of students or college students are aged 24 years or under. The remaining almost 40% are 25 years or older. And I guess that's what we would kind of classify as the non-traditional, because most of the time they are working. What challenges have you seen that non-traditional students may be facing, and what is your approach to best practices for supporting non-traditional students?
So I definitely work with non-traditional students, even part of our program. A lot of people made the assumption that because it's a program that does support that is really intended for like traditional age students, but we have non-traditional students and their needs are different than our first year students, right? They're dealing with other responsibilities beyond just being a college student typically. Now, there is an exception. There are definitely non-traditional students that do the full college experience, and that's the only thing that they do, and that's fine. But we do have a lot of people that work full-time or are trying to work part-time, have families, have all those things. And so challenges for them are very different. It's not roommate trouble, it's paying the bills trouble, it's, trying to make sure there's childcare available. Just the issues that come up are just very, very different. And I think as being a person now who is in the same situation as them, maybe just not in college, I maybe have more sympathy for some of those issues that come up because I know a lot of it's out of our control.
Yeah.
And, I think that that's like the big thing is just basically talking with them and saying like, hey, it's not your fault that this is happening right now, but let's see what we can do to help. And then using as many resources as possible through the college and then in the community at large to try and support them is really the key to making sure that they can continue and finish.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about resources, let's kind of transition and talk about resources that are available for whether you're non-traditional, traditional, first year experience, whatever it is. How can we on the administrative side better support students holistically? And what is your team doing to support providing that wraparound support for students?
So I think the big thing for support services is that students need to know that they exist. And that's probably the hardest part. I can't tell you how many times I have a conversation with a student. They're like, I didn't know we did that. Yes, we have all these support mechanisms on campus, but we have to figure out how to continually educate the students that these are accessible things for them. As a first year, so part of what I've done along with my thing in our program and directing the program, I also teach first year experience courses.
Mm-hmm.
So every fall, I typically pick up a first year experience course, which is like college orientation extended. And the idea behind the first year experience course is to really help students understand the resources that are available to them and how to access those resources. So I think programs like that, where there is a really intentional push for first year information, is really critical to making sure students are getting that. I got my, what I taught was a quarter course. I got my evaluations back, and almost all of them said, explain resources on campus. I know where resources are on campus now, and that is the most important part. So just educating students on what's available and teaching students to advocate for themselves and also ask the right questions, right? So these are two things that I see like are typically issues with students that come in that don't know, again, that language, that thing that we do here that is so different than everywhere else in higher ed. So learning how to advocate for yourself is a big thing. I see so many students that come in and they're just like, well, I don't know, like, I guess I just deal with it. And I'm like, well, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. There's a process for everything. So informing, educating them that they have rights as students beyond just attending class and taking whatever it is that they get, accessing the resources that they need, but also making sure that we're pushing them towards the support mechanisms that they do. So like in our program, we really do take a holistic approach to talking to our students. So my office is typically door wide open. I have a couch in here. We call it the therapy couch because inevitably there's at least one student on it telling me everything. And my job is to figure out where to point them to. My job is not to answer all their questions. My job is not to fix their problems. My job is to educate them on how to do it themselves. And that's where the self-advocacy and self-efficacy pieces come in. I'm having problems with a professor. Great. Here is the process for dealing with that. And this is what you need to do. Not here, I'm going to go write an email to your professor. It's teaching them that. So it's a lot of that, teach them how to fish and they'll eat forever.
Yeah, I think that sometimes, we've been doing this for years, in terms of, being able to support college students in higher ed, especially, with the younger groups. We have to make it very clear that it's our job to teach you how to fish, right? We're not going to do the fishing for you. And that can be a very much a challenging experience for somebody who's just graduating high school. And we talked about some of the statistics related to mental health, because that's part of the challenge. It's not just the schoolwork itself, right? These kids are acclimating themselves to being independent adults. And that's why having that supportive college administrators, supportive professors, and all of those, faculty, staff, those wraparound services are so important. Okay, so let me give you a scenario, and I just want you to give me some feedback. So I am a brand new college student. Well, let's go back. I am I'm in high school. I'm getting ready to graduate and go to college. Or, because this scenario can apply to a couple of different situations. Or I am a working adult and I'm getting ready. I want to go back to school and get my degree. From the perspective of an experienced administrator and advisor, tell me what that experience should look like, the questions that I should be asking as I go through this process. Because we talked about giving tips for success. I have quite a few more questions to ask you, but this is definitely the part that I want people to tune into if you're listening, in terms of what should that look like? What should I be doing? We talk about self-advocacy.
So I'm actually starting to have these conversations with my own son. My oldest son is a sophomore in high school now. And so having two parents who work in higher ed is probably like eye-rollingly annoying to him because we're constantly talking about college and like what's next. So I think the big thing is if you're getting ready to graduate from high school, the questions to ask yourself are like, what's next? Like, what do I see? Do I see myself continuing to learn and, do these things? Do I see myself doing 2 to 4 more years of this? Because if the answer is no, then we need to figure out an alternative route to a potential career. And that's where vocational training comes in and things like that. And that's totally okay. We need people to do vocational jobs just like we need everything else. And the special training that goes along with it, like I can't plumb no matter how many degrees I got.
Right there, Christina, because I just want to harp in on that point. I used to oversee vocational programs at the institution where I previously served, and I just want to say that while that is a great option for students, right? You have students who go through training in vocational programs who come out making just as much money, right, as those of us who went to college for years. So to your point, I just want to emphasize that we place so much emphasis on going to traditional universities, but community colleges are also available, and vocational training programs, apprenticeship programs, all of that stuff is available. So when you're thinking about what you want to do, consider all options, because sometimes you can go in and do an apprenticeship program or a vocational training program, and you come right out with a career and a job. So thanks for mentioning that.
100%. I think, and that's part of the process too, is determining what's right for you, and where you are in your own journey. Just because you decide to go to a vocational training and begin this career doesn't mean that there's not options in the future for getting a college degree. This is just, what are you ready for right now?
Yeah.
So I think that conversation has to be very self-reflective, and maybe discussions with your guardians or parents or your adults in your life that you trust to talk about, I don't know what I'm ready for. This is where I think I'm at. Okay, so I've decided now that I want to go to college. I need to make a decision about where I'm ready to go to college. So one of the things we've talked about with our son is like, what interests you? What are you interested in? And I'm not talking about a major. I'm not talking about a career, because I think we put a lot of emphasis on having a career choice in mind the minute that you get to college. While that is great, it's not realistic, because people change their mind. They get a chance to take other courses. They have experiences that make determinations, and change their path. So I think it's more important to ask, like, what are you interested in? What do you like? If you are more geared towards writing and the arts, okay, let's look for schools that have programs that will support that. If you're more interested in STEM or medicine, or maybe a future career in something that is engineering wise, okay, let's look at schools that have things like that, right? And then I think the second big thing is you have to be able to find a school that fits you. And I think that that's where a lot of people maybe have some difficulties. We found, I know when we, worked at community colleges, we saw a lot of students that went away to university and then came back to community college.
Yeah.
And it's because the university wasn't the right fit for them. So getting out and visiting college campuses, getting a chance to talk to other students who are on the campus, or talking to people in forums where you have a chance to ask them questions about the college. And seeing how you feel when you're on the campus is really, really important. If you get to a campus and you don't feel comfortable, or you feel out of place, it might not be the right choice for you. But if you find a college campus where you feel like you're represented and there's people there and there's support services that are going to help you, then that might be a good choice for you. So definitely college visits, getting on campus, whether that's a community college, a university, whatever, you have to go there and see how you feel. I think that that's a big step people miss, is we focus so hard on academics and how many people are employed afterwards, and how many people are finishing degrees and stuff like that. And that's all great. That's all important stuff. However, if you're going to be living somewhere for 4 years, I would want to make sure that it's a place where I want to be. And so having that feeling of like, I belong here, or at least I can see myself here, will help to encourage that process along.
What should they be doing in terms of financial aid and scholarships?
So get your FAFSA done, right? That's the big one. We are currently in some transition right now with the FAFSA. They are changing some pieces to it, and I'm not going to get to, my husband works in financial aid, so I'm constantly hearing about this. But basically they're readjusting the way that they determine financial aid. It's not a bad thing. It's just different. And the financial aid application isn't going to come out until the end of this year, which is about 3 months later than usual. My recommendation is get it done as soon as possible. The minute that it opens, get it done. because as you're applying to colleges and you're determining where you want to be next, the next thing to think about is like, can I afford to be here? Right. And this is an important question because we find a lot of students that make the decision to come to college, but don't have it fully figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very problematic, and it adds to the stress and anxiety of being a college student. You know, hey, you showed up, that's great. You still owe us money because you didn't have enough financial aid to cover your bill. So what are you going to do to pay the rest of it? You want to know those things up front. So having your FAFSA done when you get to the point of applications, adding as many schools as possible to that FAFSA so you can just send it out to, even if you're not even sure if you're going to apply, just put as many school codes down on there as you can. And then see what comes back, because sometimes they'll just mail you out of the blue and just say like, hey, you're eligible for a scholarship at our institution. And you might not have realized that you were. So I think get that done as soon as possible. It can be a very confusing process, especially if it's something that's new to you and your family. You can reach out to high schools. They often have FAFSA nights where they'll have people from local colleges come to the campus and help people fill out their FAFSAs. You can also reach out to local universities and colleges, like community colleges, because they often have financial aid people on campus who are there and willing to help you with that as well. So definitely take advantage of all of those resources that are there in the community that you can access to.
Okay, so let's just kind of go back through some of the tips that she provided. One, make sure that you're comfortable with the school that you're selecting, whether you're going online or on campus, right? You need to be comfortable, because that does happen. You know, people, I remember when I graduated high school 5 million years ago, everybody was going off to the big college. And in our local community, we have this community college, Hines Community College. We call it Harvard on the Highway, because it literally sits right there. And everybody who went off to college, right, a year later or a semester later, everybody was back. And that's because, right, you know, issues with financial aid, problems with adjusting. So these things that were 20, you know, some years ago that I was dealing with as a high school graduate, students are still facing the same thing today. But of course, we do understand it because we've experienced it ourselves. Now, like I said, I was a non-traditional student, but I would say the same thing in terms of what you mentioned in terms of making it a good fit. I remember enrolling in like 50-degree programs for my master's degree because the schools that I was selecting, I was like, they were military friendly. But then once I started doing the schoolwork, you know, I think it took me about 4 schools to finally figure out, okay, you're going to go here and you're going to finish, right? Yeah. To try that university. Well, you know, that if I had just, you know, I like the idea of offering students an orientation option, giving them tours, even if it's a virtual option, to let them experience what it's like to take a course with you. And so as an administrator, these are things that I'm looking at implementing under the models that we use, right? Because we want students not to waste their time and resources, but we want them to have a good experience and to have a good feeling about what they're embarking on very early on in the process. So we've talked about a lot of stuff. You know, we've talked about, you know, what parents can do, what we can do as administrators. There's another question I want to ask you specifically about the work that you're doing. You know, when it comes to minorities in STEM, I read recently that approximately 24% of the workforce is actually STEM related, right? Those are STEM related jobs, but only maybe about 10% of those STEM related jobs are occupied by African Americans, 15% Hispanic Americans. So what are you guys doing to recruit and support more minorities in STEM careers?
So my program is something that is for students who've already matriculated to the college. So these are students that, I mean, we of course inform them of the program beforehand, but a lot of students come and then they find out about the program. And what we do is we provide not just support services, but we also think about what next steps are. So I'd mentioned earlier, like things like paying for graduate school applications. We took them on tours. We take them to grad school programs and check out, you know, different places. Again, getting that idea of like, do you see yourself here? Do you feel comfortable here? Because we don't want them to not continue if that's their next step. The other piece of it is really reaching out to people that represent them. I understand how important representation is. And although it's great to hear from a doctor who is doing, brain surgery or something amazing, but if they don't look like the students and they don't have similar lived experiences as the students that they're talking to, students don't see themselves in that position. And so we work really extensively with our alumni network to reach out to alumni of color who have graduated and are now working in fields so that we can show them that this is possible and this is what you can do and this is what's next. So we're constantly seeking opportunities to put people in front of them that represent them. Have a wonderful community partner who is a graduate of SUNY Oswego, went on to get his doctorate in physical therapy. Mm-hmm. And now he came back to Oswego to work with his mentor. And he's been wonderful. We've actually set up mentorship programming with him to encourage students to go and talk to him. He's from where they're from. He's of African family. So, I believe his family's from Ghana. He grew up in the Bronx, just like a lot of our other students. He has very, very similar lived experiences. And so getting him in front of them and saying, like, this is a real person who has the same struggles, who's dealing with the same things as you are, but who made it. And look, they're a doctor now. So just showing them the possibilities. So just encouraging them to connect with them as much as possible. And I think just continually throwing the education pieces out there. Like, I'm always trying to communicate to the students how they can access real life experience, such as internships or research opportunities or anything where they can connect to somebody. But I'm always on the lookout for people that represent them. And so that's like a big thing for me, is just trying to find faculty members that represent them, professionals that represent them, so that they, again, can see themselves in those shoes. My program is 60% African-American, I self-identifying, and 39% Hispanic self-identifying, and then 1% other. We do take students that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, so we do have a little other category there. But yeah, it's tough trying to, find people, especially where we are. So
one of the projects that I've been working on for about a year is, putting together some content that focuses on introducing students to careers in health science. And this is, I can't talk about it in detail yet, but this project is going to be designed to make sure that just what you said, right? To make sure that young people see themselves in those types of positions. And I think that I applaud the work that you do, Dr. Vasquez, in terms of making sure that they see that representation and experience that, while still also making sure that they get exposed to internship opportunities and have diverse experience. That stuff, the work that you're doing is really important. How can people find more about your program?
So we are, like I'd mentioned, a New York State grant funded program. So you can actually go to a New York State Education Department website and look up C-STEP. So that's the Collegiate Science Technology Entry Program. There are C-STEP programs across the country. They're not just in New York, but this one in particular is funded by the state of New York. So if you're looking for more information on the program, you can check there. We also have another program associated with C-STEP called STEP, and STEP is for 7th to 12th graders. We do not have the program here at our university, but in our new grant year, we're going to be applying to hopefully start that education process early. As we know, connecting students with college early on is the key to making sure that they end up at college. And so starting that conversation as early as 6th or 7th grade is not a weird thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And so programs like this that have college students that work with younger students in the K through 12 system is fantastic. And again, if it's a representation too of the way they look or where they come from, it's even better. So any opportunity where people can connect and find people that are doing the things and look like them is just so important. But yeah, please, New York State Education Department, it's a fantastic program. It's been around for quite some time. We have over 65 programs in the state of New York right now, at a variety of colleges in the SUNY system, the State University of New York system, and CUNY system, which is the City University of New York system, as well as some private institutions. It's great work, and we're working towards that goal of making sure that these numbers show and reflect the actual population of the United States.
Hey, that was great. And to your point about starting young people early, hey, guys, don't forget to register for the upcoming College Prep and Success Online Conference, where I'll be discussing that very topic, navigating the path to college success from middle school onward. And that conference will be on November 30th. Their link is in the description box. Dr. Vasquez, it has truly been a pleasure to talk with you today, to learn about some of the awesome work that you're doing. Again, congratulations on your doctorate degree. Well earned. You have spent many years in higher education, committed to ensuring the success of our students. Again, my name is Dr. Christy Taylor, founder of Work Solutions LLC and Career Coach RX. You can find us on all social media at Career Coach RX, TikTok at Career Coach RX, YouTube at The Career Coach RX. And this video will be available for streaming immediately after. So feel free to come back and listen to it. Read the description box and check out some of the great resources that Dr. Vasquez has provided. So any last words, any final advice that you want to share today, Dr. Vasquez?
I would say that, reach out to people. I really don't mind when people reach out to me and ask me questions about their learners going to college. I know I volunteer my husband all the time to help people with financial aid, which he loves. But I think send an email. It doesn't hurt. I'm always telling students this. I'm like, did you reach out to an admissions person? Because creating those personal connections, you never know where they will take you. And so if anybody needs help, reach out to someone at the local university, local community college, whatever, or I'm always available to answer questions and can definitely, direct you to the right place to get some answers for whatever you're working on. But I just think reaching out and asking questions is just so important.
So the number one tip that I took away from today from Dr. Vasquez is you got to learn how to speak up for yourself, self-advocate, right? There's so much information out there on the internet now that even though if you don't know everything, you can literally Google a college video called Student Tips for Success, right? This very video, and there's information available to help you to navigate that process. So we're going to end here, but this was a great interview. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today. So I'm going to end the live stream, but you guys feel free to post any questions in the comments, and we will definitely follow up with you.